Hello everyone, welcome to iCoding Club. My name is Praveen and today we're going to talk about how the deferred and promise work in the dojo. Now before we can start on the deferred and promise, there is a very important thing that is the theoretical knowledge of deferred and promise and the theoretical knowledge of asynchronous JavaScript. Now I put together all those concepts and put in this particular link or the article. Before you move further, I strongly recommend to you go and check out this article to understand the theoretical thing. Now, in this particular article, what I will do, I will check the all the deferred and promise API and to understand how it will work. In most of day-to-day life, you might want to use the deferred and promise the with the Ajax call, but uh, before we move to the Ajax call, it's very important to understand how those API work. So let's move and let's start digging things. This is the diagram I copied from my last article where I explain how the promise and deferred work. This is just to understand the life cycle of the promise that it has two state, either it goes for success or the error. And then we can have the then chaining where we can have like set of tasks. All those theoretical knowledge I put in the previous article, which the link I provided at the top. To work on this blog or with this code, you have to get the package structure similar to this diagram. And we will start with the deferred API concept first, and then we'll move to the deferred XHR concept in the next video or next article. One important thing to just to understand is what Dojo suggests you that everything you should run inside the server. Dojo made in that way, so just follow the pattern. On the Mac, it's very easy to run a server in particular folder. So I put all the code inside of one demo folder and I will just run this Python script there and it will make the demo folder a server. If I move to the next section and if I just run the localhost 88, I can see the content of that directory and I just open the console to work with. I move inside the app, those are deferred API and test. At this stage, we don't have anything because we don't have in the file. What I had did is just I created the folder structure in the file. Now what we will do is we keep on following our block and copy the content from the block to the file system and try to understand how things work. So I will copy the first part of it. And this is just the HTML code which will trigger everything. I copy pasted everything. You can see that all what we're doing is calling the test API widget, which is this particular class or the module. I will move next further and I have the test API code written here. I will copy the whole section and I will put it here. So what we have done so far is if I can start with HTML. So this is the configuration which let you know that where my code and application code are there. If you're not familiar with this concept, how to describe Dojo config, I strongly recommend you to look on my old articles inside the Dojo section. And then what we are doing is we are using the AMD require function to pull the test API widget and just taking the instance of that API widget. That all what we are doing in the HTML. So let's close this thing because we don't no longer need it. The test API widget is the place where we're going to do the most of the hands-on and R&D. So let's understand it what we are doing. I just created a simple function which is just an asynchronous process. What it does, it's create a deferred and return you deferred. It's an asynchronous call which resolved in the 2 seconds. So after the 2 seconds, it just say that I'm resolved. So it's an asynchronous process which get over in 2 seconds. Inside the main constructor, which will get called automatically, we are printing in constructor and the out constructor, and then we say that when the deferred get resolved, call this handler, where we are printing a data which is passed to this handler. This data is nothing but what you pass from the resolved statement. So this I am resolved will come here and get printed here. This is a string get printed. If you pass the object will get printed. If I run the whole code this time, you can see something different. It print in constructor, out constructor, and I'm resolved, which is a bit different because we have in constructor, then this whole code, then out of constructor. This is the thing which is called asynchronous process. The moment JavaScript figure out that I have an asynchronous process, it will take out from the main thread and keep executing to the next statement. And later on, when the asynchronous process get resolved, it will print that, it will call that handler and print whatever it has or do whatever it has. So as what we were expecting, it goes and wait for, if I just run one more time, it print in and out constructor, wait for the 2 seconds, and it print the I am resolved. Simple as that. Now at this stage, if I want to have some kind of early resolve, this task get resolved in 2 seconds. But what if I want to do some kind of early resolve? Maybe in 1 second I want to do a early resolve because some reason that we no longer need to wait for the whole process to wait for 2 seconds. So what I will do, just in 1 second, I will say deferred dot resolve, and I will just say that I get resolved early. Some typo, it's just, but that's okay. If I run this thing and it just say in place of that I get resolved, is take the message from the early resolve function. The point I would like to make is a promise get resolved only once, and once it get resolved, it's just take the callback from that resolve. It doesn't look for the another resolve which is maybe after 2 seconds or 5 seconds. Let's comment out those things and let's cover something, some more other features what we have. One more thing what we can do is from the promise and what we discussed briefly in the past, that we can chain the then, that will let you chain the task. So if I provided 3 then, so this is the one task, then it is second task, and the third then is the third task. Now if I print this whole code right now, it print in and out constructor and then it say I'm resolved, then it print undefined. Why so? That take us back to this flow diagram or life cycle diagram of promise. If from the success handler, if you pass an object, if you return an object, it will go back to the then and get you know pushed to the next then in the cycle. If you do not provide anything, nothing will go to the next then cycle. So pretty easy to understand that we have to return this data to the next then in cycle. Let's have some string which we say that then one, then two, and return the data. Why not change this data and say that encoding club, and in the third I just say that So what we expect here, when it get resolved, am resolved go to the first, then it will print I'm resolved, then the data I'm resolved will come back to the second, then to should also say that, then to I'm resolved, and then this function will return you I coding club, that will get passed to the next then in cycle, and it will print then 3 data, that is I coding club. This is what we're expecting, but is it working this way or not? Let's try it. So say that I'm resolved, and I coding club as we expected. Then there are times actually where you might want to reject a particular deferred or resolve. So what we do now, we will just uncomment this section and we'll make it reject. By the way, I put everything in the blog also. So if you want to just follow the blog, you can do that also. So it's, the same thing get printed here, and we are doing the early resolve, and now this is a term to the early reject. Why not just copy this whole code and test it? So what we expect here, we are rejecting this whole case, right? So it will not wait for the 2 second, and just in 1 second, it will actually reject out this whole deferred thing. Let's try it. So it get rejected, that I can say you are rejected. We are printing the message, but a long stack trace is coming. Why so? This is because it's rejected, but we have to provide some kind of handler to capture that. And since we just have the first argument in the all the then, there is no error handler. So let's provide a error handler here. Let's take the argument error, console.log error, and let's print the argument what we're getting. Let's run the whole thing again. So it's printing the message that yeah, error, you are rejected, but it's also printing this the second then and the third then, which is nothing but the second then chain data and the third then console log. Now you have to think at this time. You might want to run the whole code in this way. If you are doing 3 tasks sequentially, which are independent of each other, and you don't want to stop the execution of the then flow if one get failed. But there are other cases where you want something like short circuit, where if one then fail, do not execute the other then. What we have to do in that case is we have to copy this whole error function and we have to put in the last then. So the way it work is deferred, once it get failed or get rejected, is actually try to find out where is the error handler. It look in the then chain and try to find out the closest error handler. Once that particular handler get resolved, it look for the next then chain in the sequence. But since in our case it's not there, so nothing will get called first. And since there's no closest error handler after this, then this will get passed, this will get passed, and this get passed, and after that this get executed. Let's see that is really working that way or not. So you can see that the other statement got over, that we are not getting those other statement which say then one undefined and something like that. And then it's also throw some kind of exception which you can catch in in your code anywhere for your purpose. So this is the way you can do the short circuit, and which I explain in my blog later on. If you want short circuit, do this particular thing. Now, apart from the rejection and early resolve, you might want to check a progress. Why I want to check the progress? Let's say if I'm doing an Ajax call, and in every 100 a second or something, you want to increase the timing counter at the top of the page, or you want to do something else. Progress check could come handy if you really need. For that, what we have to do is we have to make it defer.progress. Let's copy the whole section. I just copy here. I don't need the other then, so I will just remove them. A little bit of formatting. I just put counter that to know that how many time we are doing what we're doing. In place of set timeout, now we have set interval which keep uh, polling to the deferred in every half second. Now, what we have to do to handle this progress is we have to provide a progress handler. So if I just run this whole code right now, so say that I'm resolved, but where the progress statement, nothing is printing. Why? Because we need the progress handler also. So let's provide one progress handler. The first argument is success. Second argument is actually the error and not the progress. But the third is actually the progress handler. So I just provide progress, copy this, and just simply log the statement. If I run the whole thing again, sprint, 3 times or 4 times actually, it's still working because we are testing in every five, half seconds, and it keep printing those things, and then finally it print the result. That let you to check the progress of a deferred in this way. So what next? We're done with all the API testing. Apart from that, deferred also provide you some kind of utility function that is resolved, is rejected, or is fulfilled, or something like that, which you can use in your lab. Now, this is very important to understand the whole the concept. What I explained now is very important to understand the API functioning of the deferred that you can use. But most of the time, what you will doing is you're using a deferred with the Ajax call. That I'm covering in the next article, which say that Dojo XHR using deferred and promise. For this blog and this video, I'm covering this much. If you like this video, click on the like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.